Hello, everyone. Welcome to the stream. We're going live in just a moment. You people joining us here on Instagram will be streaming building of our printer and out of the box and all the way to getting to a pot. So we're going to be going live stream in just a moment on YouTube and Facebook as well in just a moment. So let's just get set up. Hello, 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 and welcome, everyone. We are starting our live stream for today. And in today's live stream, we will be assembling a 3D Potter 10 Super. So for our people on Instagram, it is going to be a little bit more difficult because we have some technical difficulties. So we have our side shot camera here for Instagram, and this phone is very heavy and likes to fall down. There we go. Let's go start. Okay. Last little mic check. 1, 2. Excellent. Alrighty. Let me get a better spot so we can see. So people on our Instagram here. Yeah. Okay, welcome everyone to our live stream where we are assembling a 10 Super. So you can kind of see me like this. This stream, we're going to be doing a complete unboxing, taking a printer out of the box and fully assembling it all the way to get put an extruder on it, load it with clay, and get it running and everything. So we're going to do the full process of how to, from out of the box to pot, so box to pot. So in our box here of our 10 Super, we have a parts box. In our parts box, we got quite a few things, just very parts and screws and Allen keys and bolts, and we'll get to those in just a moment. And then we'll start taking things out of the box. In the actual box, all this will be package wrapped just for this stream. They're just, there's no packing currently on all the materials, but these are all the parts that come in the box with the printer. So we got one of the tubes, the bat or printer bed, the anti-rotator, which goes on top of the extruder, the actual extruder with a tube on it already, the extruder arm, which holds the extruder, and let me make some room here real quick. And then the actual printer itself, which we are going to now move on top to the table. Now, there's a very important step here. So the printer in the box has little wing nuts on it, and these little wing nuts are to be undone. And take the washers off. And now we're going to lift it out. But before we lift it out, this is the X-rail, and currently the X-rail is loose, and as you can see, it's moving, detached from the printer, but it is, well, not detached, but it has this cable here, and this is hard attached. Do not let this fall out separately or yank, and don't yank on this separately. These two things have to come out together. So let's go ahead and do that, and 2 people is highly recommended to do this. Just like that. And again, make sure that this guy doesn't fall over. So as you can see, this would be not very good for the printer if this just fell off the table like this, because they are attached together. Okay, so now let's start fully assembling the printer from this. So this is as it is, just comes out of the box like this. First, we're going to need to take off any extra tape and packing material off of the printer. Yeah, here, would you like to assist me, please? Thank you. Okay, and then once this packing material is gone, the Z rail, which is this rail right here, gets lifted up like this, just like this. And it can fall backwards as well, so until we secure it. So make sure it doesn't flip-flop or fall in one direction all the way. So in the box here, we have 2 different size screws. So this is a version 10 super printer. So here on the side of the rail here, we're going to be putting some M514 screws. They're labeled here, and in the manual it says where these screws go as well. Some of these screws go on this side and on this side. And then there's 3 more screws, some M620s for the super, that go in lower as well. Here in the parts box, there is a bunch of Allen keys, zip ties to zip tie some more cables if you want some better cable management, and some spare nozzles. You can use these Allen keys to tighten the screws, but I am going to be using my set of Allen key tools, which is just here. I'm not using any power tools. I'm just going to be using this set here. That has the same size screws and such, or same size as the Allen keys that are included in the box. I'm going to just make sure the stream's still running because my screen just died there for a moment. So just give me one moment. Just be right back, 1 second. Sorry about that. My screen closed there for a second, so I was just making sure we were still streaming on my little cheat screen over there. Okay. So you should have 6 of these screws, the M514s, which are going to go on these 3, 1, 2, 3 here, and 1, 2, 3 on the other side. Now, if there has been a little bit of shipping vibration or some shipping, strong shipping movements, these 2 rails might be ever so slightly misaligned. All you have to do to fix that is just push this way or this way, just a very, very, very small amount. You really shouldn't have to do that. But you can check it by seeing this screw and lining it up and inserting it in here. And you should even be able to start some of them by hand. There we go. We want just kind of a nice medium snug tightness on this. You don't have to go crazy. This is just supporting the printer and making sure it is secure in place. So we got 3 on this side, and we got 3 more on the other side. And just get over here so I can see and make sure it's lined up correctly. There we go. And 1 more of these M514 screws. For all of our people on Instagram there, we have our Instagram camera over there. If you'd like the full view of this, we also are live streaming right now on YouTube and Facebook as well. We just had a little bit of technical difficulties and we couldn't get quite the Instagram streaming correctly. Okay, now those 3 screws are in on both sides. We have 3 more of our M620 screws, which go in on the other side. So this is the gearbox side. They go on the other side of the rail. Nothing too much to see here. It's the same thing of just screwing in 3 screws. I just have 3 more screw holes on this side, and I'm just screwing them in as well. And in fact, I'm actually going to re-loosen some of these screws just a little bit so I can possibly move the printer like I just said again. So if there is a little bit of vibration in shipping, there we go. And as you can see, I am doing all this with just hand tools. You do not need any power tools to do this. If you do use a drill or a power tool, please ensure that that drill or power tool you are using isn't set to extreme torque settings or isn't too strong of a drill, because if you do use something like an impact drill, it can vary, not easily, but it can damage threads and strip threads if you really just crank it down too hard. There we go. So we got those 3 screws. So I'm going to go back and tighten the screws that I loosened up. Okay. Now next step, it could be done either way. We're going to be attaching the extruder arm, this guy, and the X rail here. Let's go ahead and do the extruder arm first. So for the extruder arm, there's no screws in a little bag in the parts box. These screws are already in place here and as well for the X rail. What we're going to do is we're going to take these screws out and then put this and put the screws back. Yes, and they are covered by some blue tape here on both the X car and on the Z car for the extruder arm. So here we're going to take these screws out. Two, one more. So I just started it with the tool and now I'm just doing it by hand. Alrighty, and we'll grab our extruder arm and you just insert the screws through it. So this guy, I'm gonna have kind of a hard time with this. So I'm probably gonna start him by hand for quite the first bit. And I'll probably even go grab the Allen key because that's a bit easier than using the tool that I had there. This is an M5 tool we are using. So very gently, I'm gonna let go of this. There we go, because it is just being held by one screw. And I'm gonna start the other top screw now. There we go. Let's start the bottom ones. We got the last one here. Okay, and now my own little tool here, as you can see, it's not quite gonna work because it's just gonna go bang on the side of the rail. So I'm actually gonna use the included Allen key. Get these in as much as I can by hand first. There you go. Top one is almost done. So is that one. Let's do the other side. Let's do, ooh, drop the Allen key, sorry. And we'll do this bottom one on the rear side here. And again, same thing, same amount of tightness. You don't have to be crazy tight all the way, just medium snug, guys. So just a good good there, good there, good there, and one more. Ooh, a couple turns out of this one. There we go. Okay, now let's get the X-rail on. So just like the extruder arm, these screws are right here. They are already in place. So we're going to unscrew them. And I believe this takes an M3 Allen key. Yes, it does. So we'll take these 4 screws out. Okay, and now carefully, we're gonna take the X-rail and place it on. And I'm gonna move the car all the way to the opposite end here just to kind of help balance the weight because this side has the motor and has some weight. And we don't want to make sure that this wire gets twisted. So as you can see, I can turn this around and the wire gets all curly. We do not want that. So make sure that it is untwisted as much as you can get it by twisting it around like that. So here on the X little plate here, there's a little channel here. It's very shallow, but it's very wide. That is for the belt guard here to be able to slide through it. So we don't want to pinch this belt guard. There we go. And as you can see, this is currently tipping over. So we're going to put one of these screws in first on this side here. Ooh, don't tip over, buddy. There we go. Okay, just low tight there, and then I'll make it medium tight once I get the rest of the screws in. There we go. Two more. One more. Go back, make them medium tight on all of them, just with hand tools. There we go. And now we're going to put the bat on. So the bat, we're going to put it on in reverse. We're going to turn the printer here so it's facing forward on the table. And the bat, or printer bed, has 4 little inserts here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they slot into here into 1, 2, 3, 4 on this. So there's obviously you can see it is not perfectly centered. That is intentional. So you could put it on reverse. You cannot do this. It will crash into the base of the machine. So make sure that the long end is facing towards the front of the printer. So towards you, looking at the printer this way. So the long end is not facing towards the Z-rail. And we have the bat screws that are included in the parts box. These are M5 12s, I believe. But here we have it labeled bat screws. So take these, and I prefer using an Allen key for this. So we place the bat with these 4 slots, line up to these 4 slots, and it kind of just sits perfectly on it. All you got to do is line it up like that. And with no screws, it does tip forward a little bit. So we're going to hold it here with our hand. Take one of these screws and put it on the Allen key like this. I'm going to look under here and insert it and then spin the Allen key. Oop, dropped it there. There we go. So I got 3 more to go. So I'm going to go to the opposite side, on both on this way and on this way, and secure it diagonally first. Oh yeah, drop the screw. There we go. Sometimes these, the bat, it could be just slightly a little bit difficult to get these screws in. It's okay, you can give these a little bit of force, just as long as you see the screw being secured. So you have the screw going through the metal plate and then screwing into the bat. And you can see if there's any gap or if it wobbles a little bit, all you have to do is just tighten up those screws just a little bit more. Get this one now. And one more on the other corner. Trying to do it without looking. I may have to look over. There it is. There we go. Oh, a little bit of wobble, so we need to tighten it just a little bit more on the one I just had here. Oh, still some more. Let me go to the other side of the printer so I can get a look at it. There we go. And tighten this one up a bit more now. There we go. And it no longer wobbles. So now the printer is fully assembled. Oh, we've got to plug in some motor cables real quick. These are unplugged for shipping. So here on the back, we have cables for the Y motor and a cable for the Z motor. While they are plugged in for before we ship them, sometimes if there's some rough shipping or if the printer's pulled out of the box incorrectly, the limit switch wires, which is there's one here and there's one here, may have come disconnected in shipping. So be sure that these wires are plugged in. Now the printer is fully assembled, but the extruder is not. So now we're going to start loading the extruder. So I'll move the printer out of the way just a little bit. So now for the extruder, this is how the extruder comes. We're going to take this tube off and put on a pre-prepared tube of clay onto the extruder. So we're going to show that full process as well. So first thing we're going to do is take off these screws securing the tube. Now, these screws essentially act as pins, and they are threaded. It is very important that when you are changing tubes, that there is no pressure inside of the extruder. So if you had just finished a print and the tube was near empty, or you wanted to change the tube, you have to run the retract program, which is basically just retracting the piston in the extruder. The retract program runs for about 30 seconds on our version 10 printers, and it stops automatically. This takes all the pressure off and will allow you to safely remove these screws. If you try to remove these screws with pressure in the tube, it can strip the threading in this little gearbox adapter we have here. One more screw here. Okay, so it is also very important that this Acme screw inside of the tube stays clean, and it is pre-greased from the factory, ready for use. But if you get dust and debris on it, that can cause some excess friction, which makes the extruder work a little bit harder. And we want it running smoothly, not harder. Okay, so I'm making sure this is about to touch the table here, so I'm making sure there's no dust and debris here on the table here. Preferably maybe even on a microfiber cloth or a rag you rest that on. In the parts box, we had an Acme driver tool. This is just a little square piece of tubing on a drill chuck. And with this, you can very quickly retract the Acme screw. So for this, I'm now going to grab the anti-rotator, which we took out of the box earlier, and slide it onto this. And I'm doing this step now just to keep this clean so I don't have to worry about dust and debris getting on it. So now I can very comfortably and safely place this wherever I would like to. So we are now going to get a clay tube. We have many videos that show how to load our clay tubes in various different ways, either with a hand loader or a pug mill. But here we have a pre-prepared tube ready to go. So we're going to start taking this preserving tape off. This is a tube of clay we loaded near the start of this month. No, on 5/3, so quite a bit ago. So it's been in storage for quite some time now. And for this, all we've done is we put some saran wrap over the end of the tube with some blue tape, and we put a wet paper towel directly on the surface of the clay. And that'll keep the tubes for quite a few months prepared and ready for use for later. So here's this packaging stuff. And this is the wet paper towel. The paper towel's still wet. That's excellent. Just put that off to the side and pick out any bits of paper towel that may have escaped and just got ripped off there. We will grab one of the nozzles from our parts bag. We're going to grab this gold colored nozzle. That's our 5mm nozzle. I believe this is the right one. Yes. Okay, so in the nozzle adapter, which came out of the parts box, there's 2 set screws here on the end, and we're going to insert the nozzle. And in the nozzle, there is a small indent in the nozzle, and that lines up with the set screws. So please insert it the appropriate amount, which is right where the nozzle taper starts. The taper should just start right here at the end of the nozzle. So if you see a flat portion of the nozzle, you need to insert that flat portion into the nozzle adapter. On these set screws, we're going to very gently screw them down, and this is not medium tight, this is very low tightness on both of these set screws. You do not need to torque these down much at all. Very, very small amount of force. For this nozzle adapter, what we're going to be doing is we are going to be adding a bit of water. You can use a spray bottle. Here I just have a little cup of water. This just helps lubricate it, just some normal tap water to get it onto our loaded tube. And there's a seal here. Make sure the seal doesn't fold over on itself. So you can just insert it and wiggle it back and forth, and sometimes spinning it can help you assist on getting it on as well. Now that that is on, we're now going to put back these screws. Now, we have in the parts box a bag of M610 screws. Those are for our Super and XL printers. And we'll be using those because we're going to put 8 screws here at the bottom and put 8 screws back at the top of where we took off the empty tube off of the extruder gearbox. Be careful with this tube here. As you can see, it can roll. Make sure it doesn't roll off your table. A full tube of clay that rolls off a table can very easily crack because it's so much weight. This tube is like 20 or 25 pounds and doesn't go too well when you slam 25-pound weight off a table into plastic. So this does take just a little bit of time, and it is safest to use little hand tools like as I'm doing here. If you use a drill, which I do not recommend, it cannot be an impact because an impact will strip the threads. And if you use a normal drill that has a chuck setting of settings on how high you can set the torque, set it to the lowest one, which is 1, so you can easily stop it. You can see by hand, it just stops. But we generally do not recommend that. That is just for speed if you would like to go very fast and if you are very careful. There we go. We're past halfway done with this one. So this tube of clay, we filled it with a pug mill. And I've just noticed right now, there's already a piston on it. So I'm actually going to try to take that piston out and just show putting it back in for demonstration purposes of this stream. Because there's a couple cute little tricks you can do to help get the piston onto a fresh tube of clay here. And the last screw right here. And on these, I'm not sure if I said it, I said low tightness for the set screws for the nozzle. I'm not even getting to low tightness on these. I am like, the moment I feel any resistance, I stop screwing the screw in for these 8 screws for the nozzle adapter. Okay, so this tube of clay had a piston in it already, so I'm going to try and get this guy out. There we go. So this piston will come just like this in the parts box with the piston and the seal. It won't come with the clay on it. And you can just add a little bit of water. Same thing, just around the outside of the piston. I'm just a couple drops really. And for this, you want to make sure again, the seal doesn't fold in on itself. And insert it, and sometimes you can spin it a little bit and maybe push your thumb down into the seal to make sure the seal doesn't get folding over in on itself. Once it's in, the piston right now is pretty big sideways and angled in the piston. What you would want to do is push it all the way down to the clay as much as you can, and then you could use an Allen key or a large flathead screwdriver or one of these types of Allen key sets. And in the piston, I am going to lever it to be as flat as I can get it. And the goal here is to have as little air as possible in between the piston and the clay itself. So as that is on, we're now going to take the gearbox from earlier, and we're going to put this onto the tube here. Might need a little bit more room here. So I'm just going to move the printer a little bit. And this tube of clay is, like I said, it's 25, 30 pounds about. And we're going to take the gearbox and gearbox adapter. The gearbox adapter is this black piece of Delrin, and attach it to the loaded tube. So we're going to grab some of our screws here. These are the same screws. These M610s are the same screws as the bag, so they are interchangeable. And we send some extra screws as well in case they get lost. So for this first screw, it's very important. It has to slide into the holes that are on the tube. So I'm going to adjust the tube here with my hand and get this first screw inserted. And I'm going to be careful not to really move this around too much. As I said, we don't want to strip the threading of the screws. Once all the screws are in, it is very safe and very durable to move around. But we want to make sure we get some screws in first. Just going to wiggle the tube here a little bit. There we go. That's all we need, just one little touch. I'm going to turn the tube over so we can access the 4 screws on the other side. And again, remember, no tightness. We're not even getting to low tight here. I'm literally just inserting the screws until they're in the distance they need to be. If you feel strong resistance, plus one of these screws, there we go. If you feel any strong resistance or even low resistance of any kind, it's there. The only time you might feel some pretty strong resistance and the screw's not in, because you'll be able to see it, the tube's misaligned and it's just on top of the plastic, not going in correctly. Okay, now you have a couple options here. You can manually prime the extruder, which we're going to do in this stream, or you could just put it on the printer right now and run the prime program for an extended amount of time, probably about 3 or 4 minutes. We don't want to wait 3 or 4 minutes, so we are going to manually prime it. So with a fresh tube of clay on our extruder now, there are void gaps of air. So there's a big gap of air here before we even get to the nozzle adapter. And then inside the nozzle adapter itself is just air, because there's no clay in there right now. Also on top here, there's also a little small air pocket. I tried to make it as small as possible in between the piston and the clay. And then the screw is not even inside the piston right now. So if we were to just run the prime program, it would have to go through all of those things I just said, which will cause a long time to wait. Like I said, 3 or 4 minutes. To manually prime, we rotate the anti-rotator clockwise. So here I am just spinning this like this, and I can see the screw inserting into the piston. Okay, it is now in the piston. Okay, now it's at the bottom of the piston. So now every turn I turn here, you'll visually be able to see the piston moving down the tube. Maybe not quite on stream. I can see it here, and you will be able to see it if you are manually priming one of your printers. But this action should be able to be done by hand. If this is too difficult to do, that means the clay is too dry, and it's probably not a good batch to run on our printer. The water content needs to be just right, which we have many videos showing about how our water content would be and what that is supposed to be and how to load the tubes. But if you cannot manually prime it by hand, the extruder probably will not be able to work because the clay is too stiff and it's just basically acting as a solid and not wet clay. So the piston is still moving down right now. I'm probably putting about 5 pounds of force right now on this rotation here. And now there's no air gap here, but there's still air here in the nozzle adapter because the nozzle adapter was empty. And we're waiting to see clay come out of the nozzle end. And like I said, you could let the printer handle all of this, but it would take quite a few minutes. So now we're getting a little bit stiffer here. So that means we should be almost near the end. There we go. So as you see here, we have a little thing of clay shooting out. That's all we need right now. And in fact, I'm going to back it off 2 turns to take some pressure off. And we'll let the printer handle the final pressurization of the extruder for the print. So here on the extruder, there are 2 pins near the top. 1, 2. The anti-rotator slides on top of these pins. And this anti-rotator stops it from rotating, which will allow it to extrude the clay. If the anti-rotator is not on the printer, then it will rotate and no clay will come out. So let's move this extruder up to the side. Put the printer back in the middle of the shot for the stream. And we are ready to boot up. You could have booted up the printer before the step just to test it, but we're just booting it up now. So in the parts box, there's a power supply. It's either shrink wrapped or it's going to be in this cute little white box like this. And I already have one unboxed. It is the exact same power supply that is in this box. So I don't have to undo all the packaging. Here, there's a light on the back with the power switch. Make sure that the light is on. And then once the light turns on, your printer will start broadcasting a Wi-Fi signal. We have other videos on this channel showing how to use the interface as well as how to connect. But printer makes a Wi-Fi signal, connect to it, type in the address, and then you're in the printer interface. No installation required. So I'm going to very carefully get this laptop over here without disturbing the Instagram camera. Just getting the power cable. There we go. Okay, so on my screen here, we should have the printer interface once we connect to the Wi-Fi. And this laptop is not working correctly. So I'm actually going to ask my lovely guys on my stream over there to actually control the printer for me wirelessly. Okay, and they're going to control the printer for me wirelessly because this laptop just decided to not work. Live streaming stuff. Our internet may have just went down. I hope we're still live on the stream. Stream still up? Okay, do we have the printer interface open? Let me go check. Sorry about this, everyone, but apparently we just had some major technical difficulties. I'm going to mute my mic, and I'll be back in just one moment, probably about 1 minute. We do have backup strategies, everyone. So our wireless network has unfortunately just failed. But that is not an issue with the printer. That is an issue with us here locally. So I apologize for the technical difficulties, everyone. But we do have a backup strategy for this to make sure we can continue on this stream. Please pay attention. Please do not pay attention to the man behind the curtain. Hello, mic check. I've just been informed, unfortunately, that my microphone was not working for quite some time now. So I apologize for everyone on that on the stream. But I'm not quite sure when my mic died, but I will say I'll do a quick recap of all the things we've done. We've assembled the printer. We put the extruder together with a piston and this. We ran the prime program. We ran the print start location program first to level the extruder. So this extruder arm came down. We put the extruder on, and we leveled the nozzle with the bed. We then brought up the extruder and ran the prime program. And we then started our first print here, the test phase file, which I'm now bringing back down to a more reasonable speed. We had increased the speed. And for this file, at the end of the file, of the test file, there's even a cute little retraction script right there. And it takes most of the clay off and depressurizes the extruder just a little bit. Boop. And at the end of the program, there's a little ending script for this G-code file that brings the bat forward for you to remove your piece. Apologize. Oh yeah, and I'm not sure if the microphone had not been working yet correctly, but we use your own bat, preferably, on top of the bat of the printer. So now we can remove this and put a new one on and start another print right away. And that actually covers the full assembly of a printer out of the box all the way to pot. So box to pot. I'm going to check our other guys running our stream and see if we have any questions at all for the whole stream. I hope the stream is still running correctly. We're still having some issues with our internet provider, apparently. Let me see if I can. No, this laptop is not able to connect to our internet right now. So are we able to get any of the chat working? Any questions for the stream? No? Any comments, anything? Okay. Well, if you have any questions, now's the time to ask them. We'll be streaming for a couple more minutes here to answer any questions that you have about our printer and our whole system here. Let me go make sure everything's working correct. I'll be right back in just one moment. Someone in the chat was commenting about materials and other stuff like that. You can use any material in our extruder system. So obviously for this stream, we used Stoneware B-Mix by Laguna Clay, which is we just mix with water. About 25% water content is ideal for our tubes. But it can be anything. So anything that's a paste can go in here. So that means any other clay material, earthenware, stoneware, porcelain. But beyond that, so you could put peanut butter in there or cake icing or something. Toothpaste. Toothpaste has the word paste in it. Therefore, it will work in the extruder. It is a paste. It does need to have the word paste in it. Okay, well, that's the end of our stream, guys. This will be a permanent video, hopefully, on our YouTube channel to watch later. So you can see the full box to pot 3 of the assembly of our printer. Okay, guys. If you have some files you'd like to see print on stream, we have a submit STL file at this email link up there for people on Instagram. That's stream@3dpotter.com. Just send us an STL file, which is a model CAD file, and we'll try and print it on stream. Okay, guys, we're going to end the stream here, and we'll see you around.